Good morning, everybody. Dr. John Michael Salvato, and you're watching Inner Alchemy, the science of spiritual living. And today we are talking about unpacking our entanglements. This is our first installment, our first episode after our hiatus earlier this winter. And so it's good to be back, and I really appreciate everyone's patience as we actually searched for the right platform to be able to present this program. Some of the other programs that we were using didn't give us quite the video resolution, and so it was difficult for some of the presentation materials to be seen clearly. Others were just not reliable, and then a couple of the platforms, as many of you know, that we were using went off the air, and they're no longer available. So it was a challenge, and it was a challenge that we were up for and determined we were going to find a good solution. So we're really glad that you're here. If you're watching us live, we welcome you. If you're watching us on the replay, we are glad that you're able to catch that as well. So these programs will take place at 9:36 on Eastern Time on Saturday mornings, and then they will be broadcast to a separate webinar channel on the Conversion Pros after sometime in the afternoon on Saturdays. So if you miss the live broadcast, you'll always have an opportunity to catch the latest one on our webinar channel. So today, as I said, we're going to talk about unpacking our entanglements. We're going to talk about finding balance in the physical and quantum universes. And the idea behind this is that so much of our lives are based on our perceptions. They're based on what we think is taking place, not necessarily what's taking place in our lives, and that contributes to a great deal of suffering. Emptiness of phenomena is a term that we use in the Buddhist philosophy, which says that nothing real exists independent of anything else. So in other words, if in order for something to be real, it would have to have existed in and of itself. And everything that you look at, everything you see in the world, is a composite of other things, and is impermanent. So look at the table maybe that you might be sitting in front of that your computer is on. That table appears real because we perceive the whole. But the fact is that table is made of wood, and it's made of glue or nails or some sort of fasteners. It probably has varnish on it. And other components that get put together to make a table. And everything that we see is constantly going through the process of change or evolution, whether it's natural components like a wood table or a fiberboard table. That table, from the moment that we take notice of it, is going through a process of deterioration. We call this condition when there's a lack of intrinsic value, a lack of real substance, emptiness. And it's just a word that's been used for about 5,000 years now. But it doesn't mean that there's nothing there for us to be able to get value in the moment. It just means that we place a lot more importance on those temporary things, those transient and impermanent things. When, as you see on the screen in front of you, Bruce Lee noted that the usefulness of the cup is in its emptiness. If you have a cup and the cup is full, then that cup is of no value to you if you're trying to have a glass of something else. It's got to be empty in order for that cup to have value. So what I want you to think about today as we get started, I want you to not just think of the things that are around you, but I want you to think of this thing that you and I call you. We have a concept of self, and we believe that self is a permanent thing, that it's a real thing. So I want you to ask yourself, are you real, or are you actually the idea that you have about a group of senses and systems and thoughts that work together as a composite? Is your concept of self something that's got substance, or is it empty? So think about this. I want you to think of yourself right now, and what would the characteristics be that you acknowledge as being who that self is? Maybe you're courageous. Maybe you're outgoing. Maybe you're a dad. Maybe you're a mom, a sister, a brother, a child. Those ideas that apply to you right now, or to that thing that you call yourself. Now I want you to think back 10 years ago. And what were you like 10 years ago? So if you're like most of us, the self that we were 10 years ago is completely different from who we are now. So what happened to that self? If that self were real, it would still exist. So if it doesn't still exist, if the person that you were 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, or 25 years ago no longer exists, then that tells us that this idea of self is a construct. It's not real. That's what we mean when we say that all phenomenon are empty. So it's only when we begin to place value, permanent value, life-changing value on things that have no essential value, that we begin to get caught up in this world of attachments and repulsions. The idea in our philosophy is that suffering is caused by two things. It's either caused by clinging to those things that we imagine will cause us to be happy, of being attached to people, to places, to circumstances that we think bring us happiness or completion, or repelling and trying to run from anything that we think will cause us pain. And when that happens, we suffer. And so this idea that something is lasting enough, is real, has substance enough to make us happy, that we chase after it, that we cling to it, or something that the idea that something could cause us so much pain that we would permanently be unhappy. That's when we lose sight of the fact that all phenomena are impermanent. So it may be that you have a medical condition, for example, and that medical condition may cause you a great deal of pain. Many people choose to suffer. Pain is part of life. Suffering is optional. When they put their focus on that pain and poor me, and oh, this just really hurts so bad and it's taking away all my happiness, then they're trying to avoid the pain. They don't want to have to deal with the pain. That's when they begin to suffer. When they say, this experience of pain is what it is, and pain is really just a warning signal for us that something is out of balance. And no, none of us like pain. But we might say, hey, you know what, this pain is here to protect me. It's here to let me know something is wrong. And it really sucks, and I can't wait for it to be done. But it is what it is, and I'm not going to allow it to cause me to suffer. I'm going to move on with my day, and I'm going to move through the pain. Now, that pain might keep you in bed. That pain might keep you, having to sit on the couch or take it easy. But all of those things are good things because they're allowing your body the opportunity to heal. So it's not just the things that we chase after, but also the things that we try to push away. But the greatest cause of suffering is the illusion of separateness. That idea that there is a line of separateness between me and you, between you and another person, or between you and anything else that's all around you. See, this idea of separateness is what causes people to suffer. To put it in the terms that are used in the Christian tradition and the Abrahamic traditions, it's what causes sin. The idea of sin is a separateness. It's behaving in a way that imagines that something you could do would ever separate you from that first cause, from that primal love, or that concept you call the concept God or spirit or source. That's what that idea of sin is, and it's all in your head. See, through our underlying consciousness and through the activities of our minds and our senses, we carry out actions in the world. And at any given point in time, we're either creating good or we're creating suffering. And it's all a matter of our behavior. So think about the person who steals something. Now they don't steal something because they wake up some morning and say, I think I'm going to, and maybe there are some people who wake up and say, I think I'm going to go steal something. But usually someone steals because they don't have a belief that says that the universe will provide for them and that all of their needs will be taken care of. And so in their mind, there is a separateness between them and the universe, or between them and their God, between them and their society. So they say, in order for me to be able to get what I want, I have to go and take it. And so this concept of having to go out and take what's not mine is that source of that creation of suffering in your life. And it doesn't just cause suffering for the person that you stole from, it creates suffering for the person who is doing the stealing as well, because it just reinforces that negative belief that I have to suffer. Now, on the contrast, the person who recognizes that they are one with all of life, with every experience, who understands that everything that they experience in their lives begins in thought, that person goes out into the world and they encounter a homeless person that they walk by every day on their way to work. And they take the time today to stop at the McDonald's or stop at the corner deli and get a bagel and some coffee for that person and say, hey, I thought you might not have eaten today. That person is acting in union or unity with all of creation. They're taking responsibility for not just for themselves, but for making sure that whatever they can do to help prevent suffering in the world, they do. So it works both ways. Now, in The Science of Mind, Dr. Ernest Holmes says that thought is first reflected into mind and then into matter. And so I want you to think about that. I want you to think of thought as the creative stuff. Think of it as the silly putty or the Play-Doh from which things are made. And so first, that thought is reflected or directed into mind, into that universal consciousness, that creative intelligence, whatever name that you want to call it. Some people call that universal consciousness or that mind source. They call it spirit. They call it God or goddess or Kali or Allah or Yahweh. But whatever name you call it by, thought first gets reflected into that creative source, that 0-point energy source, and then it gets reflected into matter. So what's that got to do with this concept of separateness and unpacking our entanglements? Well, in A Course in Miracles, we read that whatever is not love is fear. And so the Course decides to call that source love. And love, or pure awareness, as I prefer to call it, are the natural resting state of our being. That's who we are at the core of ourselves, that our true nature. We think of ourselves as, I'm John Michael, and you're Irving, or you're Sandy, or you're Katrina. But the truth is that I'm love, and you're love, and the other person is love, because that idea, those lines in the sand, are not real. You're pure awareness expressing itself. So whenever we operate from the perception that we're separate, we begin thinking thoughts that are based on fear and lack. If I believe that I'm separate from you and you have something that I don't have, then I begin to feel that I'm lacking that something. But if I recognize that I'm one with you and I see you having something wonderful in your life, then we have that something wonderful in our lives. And it may not be manifest in my personal experience or my personal possessions, but that doesn't mean that it can't be. So I don't feel, when I see somebody who just won $1 million, or just got the greatest new job, or just got a brand new home or new car or something like that, I'm excited for them, because for me, that means that the universe is providing for all of us, not just for that person. Because I don't see that distinction of separateness. I choose not to see that distinction of separateness. Now, there are times that I have those delusions as well. And I see somebody behaving horribly, and rather than recognize that bad behavior is a reflection of something I need to let go of in myself, I point the fingers and blame that person, as though they were separate from me. So these thoughts reflect in our minds first, and then they reflect into our experiences. And so it's really a matter of taking 100% responsibility for our lives, saying that anything that I experience in my life is a direct result of the thoughts that I've entertained or am entertaining now. And so it's an opportunity for me to either embrace something or let go of something. So let's talk a little bit about this idea of a quantum universe. What do we mean when we say, working through or unpacking our entanglements? Well, let's talk about what the quantum universe is. And the first thing I like to do is to kind of take it out of the strictly scientific, because if we get into discussing quantum mechanics and we discuss, M theory and string theory, some people are going to get bored. They're going to go away. But if we talk in terms of poetry, in terms of art, in terms of music, a lot of times people can relate. So the poet Muriel Rukeyser once famously observed that the universe is made of stories, not atoms. I want you to think about that for a minute. Let that kind of wash over you, because I think that's an amazing statement. And they said that the universe is made of stories, not atoms. You see, you have a story. I have a story. Everything that's in this universe has a story. Why? Because it's first created in mind and then reflected into that, or in thought, created and then reflected into mind, which is then reflected into our experience. So quantum theory is really nothing more than an example of how the infinitely esoteric simultaneously becomes the infinitely scientific. So we have this idea that this unquantifiable, and Einstein called this the 0-point field, that there's this unquantifiable repository of energy, this dark matter from which all matter is manifest. And this unquantifiable, unknowable energy is the 0 point. It's the source. Now, our world is filled with diverse and complex phenomena, which behave in accordance to a simple set of rules. And I want you to really understand this too, that it can feel like the world around us is very complex. And science sometimes makes it a little more complex than it needs to. But true science at the core understands that all of this phenomena operates according to a simple set of rules. They're so simple that you could write them on the back of a napkin or the back of an envelope. And that simple set of rules is what we build all of our other scientific knowledge upon. We understand those core laws of physics and quantum mechanics, and everything else is built upon that. Now, there was a physicist by the name of Brian Cox, and I apologize to Brian in advance for failing to capitalize the first letter of his first name. And Brian Cox wrote in one of his books, the fact that we do not need a whole library of books to explain the essential nature of things is one of the greatest mysteries of all. That we can actually drill things down to this core set of simple rules. And when you understand those rules of the universe, those laws of existence, then you understand everything else. Now, the physical universe it has been called by a lot of quantum physicists a hologram. What if that were the case? I want you to think today if it would happen if you recognize that everything that's going on around you, everything in your life, including you, including me, are nothing more than a projection of thoughts and beliefs, which could be shaped and reshaped through the conscious use of these spiritual laws. So when we understand the science of spiritual living, we understand that our experiences can be shaped and they can be reshaped. If we've made decisions or we hold on to beliefs that are manifesting in our lives right now as illness, they're manifesting in our lives right now as financial need, then we can choose to think new thoughts, to let go of that idea that there's not enough, and to open ourselves to opportunities. And that happens on a daily basis in our lives, sometimes without our even realizing. You might be in a position where maybe at 9 o'clock at night, you are facing strong financial challenges. You're facing financial difficulties. You don't know how you're going to pay your bills, and you just don't know what's going to happen. And then in a moment, you connect with somebody who knows a greater truth about you, who knows you're limitless, who knows that the universe is filling the supply. The universe is providing the supply and the demand all around us at all times. And so in that moment, that connection with that person shifts something in your consciousness. You begin to let go of a belief that you have about not having enough, and you open yourself to possibilities. And it might be that in that moment, you find out that there are opportunities sitting right in front of you that you've never known about before. That's what happens when a quantum shift takes place. And all that happened is you're still the same, I'm still the same. This experience of life that's a hologram just became reshaped. We just made a small change, a shift by understanding those universal laws, and your experience began to change. So my recommendation for you today, I want to, when I do these programs, I like to be able to give you some real concrete ideas, some concrete stuff to work with. You know, we don't come to this program on Saturdays with an agenda, with an intention of getting you to do something that profits us. This isn't about getting you to to do business with us, to take classes with us. This is about encouraging you to make some changes in your life. Now, if that results in you working with us, or taking classes with us, or being friends with us, or anything else, that's fantastic, and we embrace that and love it. But what we want more than anything else, what I want more than anything else, is that this lead you to experiencing a more authentic life. And so every week I want to try and give you some advice, some key insights that you can use to begin to apply these principles. And so today we want to talk about mastering the mind-body connection, and what we do to make that happen. And there are basically 5 things that you can do to master your mind-body connection starting this week. These are changes that you can begin to make today. The first is to live a balanced life. The second is to calm and control your mind. Third, you want to take care of your body, your mind, and your spirit. And fourth, you want to live from a place of compassion and courage. And 5, you want to become more resilient in your life. And so we're going to talk very briefly about that as we wrap up today. Living a more balanced life. What are some of the ideas that you hold about work and about money? What are some of the ideas you hold about rest and relaxation? If you decided to take a day off, and you decide that today I'm not going to work, I'm not going to make phone calls, I am just going to I'm going to get out. I'm going to spend time doing some things that allow me to rest and nourish myself, and that bring me enjoyment. What are the feelings that begin to arise? Do you start to feel guilty? Do you start to feel relief? What are your thoughts about creating a better life? What would a better life look like for you? If time and money were not an option, what would your life look like if it were to be a healthier, better, more productive life? Think about those things, because the answers that you find in those questions, by asking the right questions, you find answers that begin to point you in the direction of making a quantum shift. Now, the 5 keys to balance are to nurture yourself, to identify your priorities and boundaries, and be okay with that. When you recognize that my priorities are to do this, 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 and this, and my boundaries are set here, understand that you can always change your boundaries. You can always adjust your priorities, but you have to start from somewhere. And know that it's okay. Give yourself permission to set those boundaries, to create those priorities. And then create an efficient mindset. Stay organized. If you need to write things down on paper in order for that to happen, then write it on paper. If you need to spend a couple minutes at night just making sure that you know what you're going to do tomorrow, then do that. Expect the unexpected, because no matter how great your list is, no matter whether you've written it down, no matter whether you put it in your calendar, you put it on Google Calendars, whatever, you have to expect the unexpected and be willing to just let those things unfold as they will. And then whatever is not essential to right here, right now, in this present moment, just let it go. Recognize that sometimes shit happens. If Buddha lived today, I think his Four Noble Truths might begin with those words: shit happens. And when you begin to recognize that the shit that's happening all around you is just a reflection of some of the thoughts, the beliefs that you hold, and it's just an opportunity for you to work through your own shit, then the path to letting go of all of that becomes a lot clearer. When we say to calm and control your mind, don't strive for a balanced life. That's the recipe for a disaster. And I know because I've tried. There have been times when my focus has been that I'm going to create a balanced life. I'm going to create the perfect life. And all that does is when the unexpected happens, it throws a wrench in your picture, your projection of what that balanced life looks like, and it gets you off course. But instead, if you try to create a balanced day or a balanced moment, if you say, I'm going to create balance for myself right here, right now, and then repeat that in the next moment, and repeat that in the next moment, and do the same thing tomorrow, and the same thing the day after that. Before long, you've created a balanced life, but you've created a balanced life one moment at a time. So practice that. Practice coming back to the present moment. And the best way to do that I know of is to make time for quiet meditation on a daily basis. Majaya Sati Bhagavati would say, quiet the mind and the soul will speak. When we take that time to come back to the present moment, we allow ourselves the space in which to hear the real wisdom from our inner selves. Now take care of your body, your mind, and your spirit. That means getting up and breathing. That means moving. Get outside. Take time whenever you possibly can to go barefoot on the earth, to kind of ground yourself in the surroundings. Just kind of let yourself feel the world around you. And you feel that with your body, you feel that with your mind. Bring your awareness and your mindfulness to your surroundings. And when you do those things, you actually begin, as I said, when you quiet yourself, you begin to hear that inner wisdom. That's your spirit. Eat foods which support the process of cellular regeneration. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you can't eat junk food. I'm not going to tell you avoid sugar or starch or anything else, or meat or dairy. But I'm here to tell you that make sure that among the things that you do eat some foods which support your cellular regeneration process. If you don't know what those kind of foods are, if you're not sure what could be contributing to imbalances in your body that are manifesting as illness, then seek out the advice of a wellness coach. It's one of the best investments that you could ever make. Make sure that you get plenty of rest. Don't minimize the importance of a good night's sleep. Don't minimize the importance of taking a few minutes away from that computer. If you're in front of a computer all day, to just move. It could be as simple as moving across the room and sitting in a chair and just allowing yourself to kind of breathe and separate from that technology for a few minutes. And then find out, if your adrenal system is being taxed. So many times that the people that I talk to, both as a physician and as a pastoral counselor, they tell me that the health issues that are going on, that they don't understand why. And when we begin to look at their lifestyle, we begin to look at the demands that are being placed on them with their work, with their school, with their relationships, we find out that their adrenal system is just shot. And there are steps that you can take to rebuild your adrenal system, especially if you're somebody who's on a spiritual journey. It's critically important to know that sometimes the world around you can be taxing to your adrenal system when you don't even know it. So find out, again, get in touch with a wellness coach, get in touch with a wellness professional who can help you to explore those things. Choose to live a life that's compassionate and it's courageous. Again, Majaya would say, when you plant the seeds of love, it's you that blossoms. Recognize that just the fact that you've watched this program this far means that there's a part of you that is courageously committed to living a life that's compassionate and mindful. And more than anything else, be resilient. Whatever's going on in your life right now hasn't killed you, and it might seem that you just can't take another minute, but if nothing else, use the things that many of you already know I've gone through in my life. Use those things as a reminder for you when you feel like giving up. Remember, I was sexually abused from the time I was 15 until I was 18. When I was 20, I was raped and beaten by those four illegal immigrants who left me for dead behind that 7-Eleven. And later that year, I was diagnosed with full-blown AIDS. I was told I wouldn't live to see 24. By the time I was 30, more than 100 of my friends and loved ones had died in my arms. At 40, I was beginning to develop the symptoms of what they were thinking might have been MS and what later turned out to be young onset Parkinson's. And by 45, I had lost everything that I owned and had to start over. But I'm here today. And I'm here today because my mindset is resilient. And those things that I lost can be rebuilt. Those health issues can be resolved. Those emotional issues and the trauma can be overcome. So if you're still listening to this, your story's not over. Just hang in there. Stay resilient. Be strong. And at the end of every one of these programs, I want to encourage you guys to allow us to share with you a new way of looking at things. And we call this spiritual mind treatment. It's a type of affirmative prayer or affirmative acknowledgement. It's a way of connecting with your inner self, with the truth about your inner self that you may not have thought about before. It's a way of recognizing that that there is a greater awareness available to you. And it's an opportunity for you and for me to just kind of come back to this moment. So kind of calm yourself now, bring yourself to a place where you can just kind of feel your shoulders soften, feel your needs and your worries and your concerns. Kind of stop for a moment. And if you need to, close your eyes or just find a resting posture. And as I speak these words in the first person, recognizing them for myself, know that I speak them for you as well. And so what is truth for me, because I see no distinction, no difference, no lines in the sand, and I feel connected, deeply connected to each and every one of you. So what's truth for me is truth for you. So as I speak in the first person, I invite you to accept these things for yourself as well. And so I know that there's a creative intelligence, a universal mind at work in all things. And I know that I'm one with that mind. Now, some people call that one mind source. They call it the awakened mind or the enlightened mind. Others call it God or Allah, Christ consciousness, or the wisdom of the Divine Mother. It doesn't matter what we call it. I simply call it pure awareness. And I affirm that that mind, that consciousness and creativity is my mind now. I recognize and I affirm that you and I are one. Simply pure awareness expressing itself in different and beautiful ways. That each one of us is a thread that together makes a beautiful tapestry that wouldn't be possible were it not for those diverse threads. And so we recognize, we realize right now that nothing in life asks us for anything, and yet we choose to live our lives as freely as we can. We recognize that there is within each of us a power that compels us to always move in new directions. So any decision that we make, any decision we've ever made, has to be made through a wisdom that lies within us, a wisdom that comes from that infinite intelligence within me and within you. And therefore, all of our decisions are always the right decision for right now. Now, sometimes those decisions don't work out the way that we expected them to. But the lessons are always perfect. And that sacred source within me doesn't make mistakes. And so I don't lean on my own understanding. I don't worry and get caught up in trying to figure out why things turned out the way that they did. But I'm filled with and I'm fueled by the love of this creative intelligence within me, this pure awareness. And so I surrender and let go. I allow this divine choreography to take place in my life. I recognize that the choices that I made yesterday can be made new today. The choices that didn't work out so well for me today can be changed and adjusted tomorrow. And so there's constant movement in our life. There's constant goodness and grace and ease. And so I accept it right here and right now. I have an awareness to make healthy decisions. And I let go of the decisions I made in the past. I let go of the fear of the decisions that I'll make in the future. And I'm ecstatic for the realization of the decisions that I'm making right here, right now. That I choose to make decisions based on love and compassion and courage. That I lay claim to the good that is now mine, that is circulating in me, to me, through me, and all around me, as I continue to make new decisions that are all for the highest good, for the greatest good. And so I give thanks for this awareness of truth. I give thanks for the awakening of that power within me to make new decisions today, to let go of and forgive the decisions I've made in the past and the decisions that others have made in the past, which might not seem to have worked out well for me, because I know the truth is that those things brought me to where I am today. So right here and right now, I'm thankful, even for those things that didn't seem to work out well. And I recognize that right here and right now, that gratitude opens the door for the abundance that's waiting for me and waiting for you in our lives. I release this treatment into law of mind and into consciousness and into spirit. I recognize that I can let go and rest in the assurance that the good that I've affirmed in word has been spoken into law, has been reflected into mind, and from mind will be reflected or manifest in my experience, and so it is. Guys, I hope that your next week is filled with recognition and awareness of the opportunities that exist for you to make these subtle changes, to begin to work on those quantum entanglements. I hope that these last 30 minutes or 34 minutes have been useful for you. I do promise that I'm going to try and keep these right at 30 minutes. That's my commitment, to make this show something where you spend a simple 30 minutes on a Saturday morning and allow it to kind of set the course for the work that you do in the coming week. We'd love to hear from you. Make sure that when you're watching this, whether you're watching it on YouTube or the webinar channel, that you let us know what topics and ideas you would like to begin to explore on some of our future shows. I thank you for being here. You're the reason that I do this on Saturday mornings, and I celebrate that journey that you're on, that I'm on, that we're on together. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Stay in the moment. Be grateful for everything that you've got. That gratitude, as I said, will open the door for the abundance that's waiting for you. And always remember, the best is yet to come. We'll talk to you soon.